So for the first question, in what year did you come to Canada?
I came to Canada in May 1975.
Okay, and then how old were you when you came to Canada?
I was 18.
Okay, and was there any specific reason as to why you wanted to come to Canada?
Actually, I came as a dependent child of my parents. So my father was here and my family was coming, so I came with them.
Okay, and then what were your expectations of Canada? Like, what did you imagine it as, or?
Well, I think basically the stories which we heard in Punjab about Canada was that it's a beautiful land, you can make lots of money and that kind of thing. Basically beautiful, little bit cold, but you have to work hard. Those kind of stories we heard there. So basically beautiful land, you have to work hard, but you can make lots of money.
Okay. Let's move this. Okay, and so when you arrived in Canada, like when you literally came off the plane, what was your reaction to Canada? Like the land, the weather, the people?
I think because it was a summer, May, weather was good. It was not raining. It was sunny weather. So I saw the cleanliness, buildings, big buildings, clean buildings. So I was impressed by it. I think the biggest surprise for me was that during that time the sun was shining very late, 9:30, something like that. So I had never experienced that in my life before. That sun is up till 10 and in the morning it's up at 5. So that was really surprising.
Okay, and then when was the first time you tried like basically Western food, and what was your reaction to it?
I think I still remember it. I think after 2 weeks or 1 week, because my elder brother was here before me. He came 2 years earlier than me. So he took me with his friends to a McDonald's I still remember, Nanaimo and Kingsway. The McDonald's is still there. So he took me there and he ordered a Big Mac for me. So that was my first try out to the Western food, as well as like we never ate beef in India. So that was so I think subconsciously I ate hamburger, but subconsciously I think in my mind that beef eating is not good. So it didn't taste that great. But that was my first experience.
Okay. And then do you remember any sounds or smells or sights that stuck out to you when you came to Canada?
I think nothing specific. I don't remember. I can't relate to anyone. Things like that.
Okay, and so how old were you when you, actually I already asked you that, but what were you doing in India at the time?
In India, I was going to school. I was in grade 12. That's called, because in India you start college after grade 10. You will have first pre-university, and then that's grade 11, and then grade 12 is first year BA or BSc. So I was in first year there studying.
Okay. And so what were you expecting when you came here?
Well, actually I was ready. I was prepared. The only thing I was expecting was that I'm going to go there and I'm going to find a job and I'm going to work, and that's kind of like I had no intention in my mind that I'm going to study or do something. So basic thing was that I'm going to go and work there.
Okay. What were some jobs that you held while you were here?
Well, the first job I got was in the farms. I worked one season, but not full season, I think maybe 1 month or 2 months in the farms in Eversport. I used to go travel in a van. A farm contractor would take us to the farm and then bring back. So that was my first job. And after that, I found a job in a laundry in Chinatown, Vancouver. My father, when he came here, he used to work there. At that time, he was not working there, but his friends were. So through that connection, I got a job in that place.
Were there any other jobs that you held later on?
Yes. So like that job was kind of it was a good job for new immigrants. So you work. You only knew that you were going to go in, but at what time you were going to be off, you don't know. So, and its job was 7 days a week kind of thing. So I think first few months I like it. I thought that I'm making lots of money, but then I start feeling that that's not what I want. I want to have weekends off and that kind of thing. And at that time, what was the biggest thing for the Punjabi community was that if you think that you got a real job, you have to work in a sawmill. And that was the job. I think the reason for that was, even though the job was hard, but the reason for that was because it was a union job and you will get benefits and wages were high. And I tried looking for the job in the sawmills, but I was not able to get it. But then at that time, I did 2-week certificate in first aid attendant, and that was a kind of ticket during that time, that if you get that ticket, you will get a job in sawmill or in industry anywhere. So because in India I was studying first year sciences, I was taking pre-medical, all those subjects. So I was familiar with the terminology which they use in first aid attendant and that kind of thing. So it was easier for me to get that certificate. So the day I received the certificate, I think the second day I went to apply for a job in a sawmill, and when I came home, they called me that, okay, you can come start working next Monday, that kind of thing. So then I started working at the sawmill, and I worked there for 3 years. And then I went, but still I was not happy. I didn't want, again, in the beginning I liked the job. I was making good money. I was kind of equal to other men in the community, if you want to say that. But then I started thinking that I should study. Then I quit the job, went to school, did one course I was enrolled in. I was not able to finish that because it was a draftsman course, and I had no aptitude for that, but I just went there because somebody else was doing that job, and I felt that it's a nice job. And after that, I did 1 2-year diploma in power and process engineering. I liked that. I enjoyed that, and I completed it. But when I finished it, the whole pulp industry, the oil industry in Alberta, so they went to slump. Everything kind of shut down. So after doing that, I was not able to get a job in that field. So at that time, I decided that, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to study for a job anymore. I'm going to study what I like, what I want. So then I started taking a few courses in Canadian history, political science, and that kind of thing. Because I had no intention that I'm going to do a BA or MA. My whole aim was to just know Canada. So I took a few courses in that, and that's how I started my journey towards my education here. So after working there, after studying and during that time I went back to doing different jobs, taxi driving, went back to sawmill again and that kind of thing, what kind of job I could get. But then so now it was 1980s. In 1980, I went back to India after 5 years coming here. Then I got married there and came back, and my wife came back 6 months after me. So then we were here as a family. So she also wanted me to study further, and I also wanted. So I think then I was going to school as well as I was working. So gradually I got a job, kind of office job. At that in a People's Law School, it's a non-profit organization which was providing education to immigrants and other people about the law. So I started working with them and worked with them for 6 years, and also continued taking courses at SFU. At first I started at Quantland, then I started Quantland, Surrey, then I started going to SFU. So then after working 6 years, I decided, okay, now is the time to finish my education, finish my BA. So I went to school, SFU, finished my BA, and then after that I did my master's in communication from SFU.
Okay, and then how did you get into the literary world of Punjabi writing and all that sort of stuff?
Okay, I think that when all these things were happening, and I was also involved in literary circle, I enjoyed reading books when I was in India, Punjabi literature. So when I was even, there was a magazine started publishing here in 1973. It was called Vatno Dur. So even in India, I used to get that magazine and read about it. And there was lots of Punjabi writers from England who were writing about the immigrant experience in England. So I was reading all those things, so I was interested in literature. So when I came here, so in 1978, I wrote a very small, it's called mini story, and sent it to that magazine, Vatno Dur, which was, and the editor was Sadhu Bining at that time. So he liked it. He said he's going to publish it, and then he called me at home, and that why not I should come to a literary organization. At that time there was a Punjabi Literary Association which was formed in 1973. So they used to meet every 2 weeks regularly, and people, all the writers, different people would go there. So people would read their stories, and other people would criticize it and then give you suggestions. And it was very harsh kind of atmosphere, but in a good way. I liked it. They would not spare you that you are new or you are a friend of somebody. They would say what they say. So that was my school, kind of learning how to write and read and literature, how to appreciate literature. So I started going there, and then because the work at the Vatno Dur magazine, which Sadhu Bining was editor, so it was all volunteer. Then he asked me that do I want to help him in producing the magazine, and I said yes. So then I started working with him as an assistant editor to the magazine. So that was my start into literary activities in here. So that we published up to 1983. So in 1980, I got involved in 1978, but officially in 1980. So we produced that magazine together for up to 1983. Then we stopped publishing it. There were people in Alberta, so we gave them the magazine that they should publish it from there. So, and we were here, then have nothing else to do. Then we thought, why not we start a theater group? So we started a theatre group which was called Vancouver Sat. And so in that theatre group, Sadhu, myself, his wife, my wife, and other friends, all immature actors and directors. So we started producing plays about the situations within the Punjabi community. So first play we did it was called Cricket Line. Uh, uh, in that play, at that time there was some attempts in the community to organize farm workers who were working in the Abbotsford. So there was one strike going on there in one farm. So Sadhu and we went to interview the women who were working in the farm, and we published that interview in our magazine. But at the same time, we wrote a play about that situation, and that play was performed. First time we did that play, and we started our theatre group. So then after that we did, I think we were active doing theatre for 6-7 years. We did plays on violence against women, seniors issues, farm workers, as I said, and so younger generation, at that time there was this big issue, like younger generation, people who were born here, who came to Canada at a young age, so there was lots of pressure from parents to get them married, and there was no choice for them. And we kind of, in that play, raised a question about that, whose marriage is this? That was the name of the play, Keda Bya. That is this a parents' marriage or is this kids' marriage? That kind of basic, simple question we raised. And so we wrote that play. So these kind of issues around the community issues, settlement issues of the immigrant, these were the problems at that time our community was facing. So we raised those kind of issues in our plays, and we did performances in Vancouver.
Were you involved in like any other sort of like Punjabi circles, like?
Literary circles, like member of the Punjabi Literary Association and with this magazine. But at the same time, like those were very interesting times. There were things happening like, because there was lots of racism. So there were organizations within the community to fight against racism. There was one British Columbia organization to fight racism. There was the East Indian Defense Committee, and so I was involved in the British Columbia organization to fight racism as a supporter, not as a leader, just as a supporter. So I was involved with them, and then this whole farm workers thing, for organizing thing. So I was also a supporter, were involved with them, and so those like two kind of semi-political organizations to fight racism and farm workers, and then these literary activities. So mostly I was involved in literary and cultural activities, writing, doing interviews with people, that kind of stuff.
Okay, what were some racist like interactions that you came across through your experiences?
Okay, like personally, like direct and personal experiences, like I think maybe 2 or 3 incidents, like when I was working on the street and somebody would come and say that, hey, you go back where you come from, that kind of thing. Though that was like personal direct experience which I experienced. But at that time, that I think things with were happening was that sometimes some a racist person would come and throw eggs through your windows or break your windows at night time. There were some incidents of even 1 or 2 incidents where they threw handmade bomb in somebody's house. So those kind of, that was the atmosphere at that time which Punjabi community was facing. And there was also at that time the Ku Klux Klan. They were trying to establish open an office in Vancouver. And so British Columbia Organized to Fight Racism and other groups in the larger community, they were opposing it, that they have no right to open a office here. So that kind of thing. So personal level, 2 or 3 incidents where somebody just said, go back where you come from. But the general atmosphere outside was that there was lots of racism, that these are, I think, before mid-80s. Right?
When you were part of, when you came over to Canada and you were facing this sort of racism and stuff, did you feel a need to maybe fit in with them, or?
I think I never experienced that, like that. I think one thing was, I think that must be that because I was involved like with these different groups, and with these groups like British Columbia Organized to Fight Racism, Canadian Farm Workers Union. So there were also at that time people from the larger community. So white people would come and support Organized to Fight Racism, and similarly in farm workers. So by doing those things, it was kind of like I felt that I'm participating in Canadian life. I am trying to make Canada better. I'm like, these are things I'm trying to end discrimination. So that was kind of, if I want to kind of describe that experience, that was the experience kind of becoming Canadian. So I was engaging with Canada, even as a protester. But with Canadian institution, we were demanding things from municipal government, British Columbia's government. So that was my engagement. And at the same time, because I was taking courses about Canada, so political system, political science, history, sociology, those kind of. So those helped me integrate into Canadian society better. And also, I think in few occasions we did some translations from. I remember translating Italian Canadian short story and publishing in a magazine. So translating that into Punjabi and publishing it in our magazine. So I think once we wrote an article about Ku Klux Klan. So that kind of things, engaging with the Canadian society, understanding it, that was kind of my experience of becoming Canadian. I never felt that I should become a quote-unquote Gora or white person. I was proud of what I was, but I always felt that, by engaging with Canada, I would be, that is my process of becoming Canadian.
So going back a bit, when you first came here, what did you hope to accomplish while in Canada?
I think at that time, simple was that I'm going to go and find a job, work, earn some money, and that's kind of better life. Like there was no definitive thing that what that better life is. So it was basically that I'm going to go find a job and just do earn some money, and that's it. And I think during that time, not only me but other immigrants, like when we came, so there was sometimes like some kind of desire was that you're going to go to Canada, or even people who came to England, you're going to work 5 years, make enough money, and then you're going to come back and live in India, that kind of thing. And I think like I had that, like I came in 75, And I had that kind of feeling till 1983, 1984, I would say 4 or 5 or something like that. I've like that kind of desire that I'm going to go back. And but that changed when I was here 10 years and I was started involved in. So then that changed. That then I thought that no, this is my country and I'm going to be here. And that was a very interesting experience with our literary magazine. The name of the magazine was Watano Dur, Far from the Motherland. So, and we continued publishing it like up to 83. Then the people in Edmonton, they published till 1986. In 1989, and they stopped publishing it in 1986. And 1989, Sadhu Winning and I, we restarted the magazine, but this time we called it Watan. That's not far from motherland. This is our country. So that is kind of very symbolic change. And we wrote, I think, first editorial in the magazine that okay, this is not. This is our Watan. This is our country. We are going to stay here, and we in this magazine we are going to talk about things which matters to us here. So that kind of thing. Like if we compare what was being published before in that magazine. So sometime our majority of stuff was about India, their political situation in India. But our emphasis then in Watan we started that no, we are going to talk about Canada. And so that changed after 10 years of that, I'm going to be here.
And now looking back at your life, even though it's very far from over, do you feel that you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish?
I think so. Like when I think about it, from where I started, I came to Canada from grade 12, and I came from a village, so like the education system in India is kind of 2-3 tired. People who are in cities have better education. So if I compare back and look back, then I think I'm very satisfied because I took on my own pace. I studied, I did things, I did my master's, which I had no plan in the beginning that I'm going to do it, but and I have written few books, so that kind of I feel very satisfied where I am.
Okay. Why do you think it's important to give you a voice?
Well, I think one thing is that everybody is unique, and if you really want to document the experience of immigrants, you're documenting Punjabi immigrants, but any immigrants, so it's good to capture as many voices as possible. So then you will have a richer documentation, richer experience. That's one thing for a journal, that why you want to document. And why me? I think I was involved in like literary and cultural organization, so I could, some of the things which I can tell you, I could give you that kind of insight into that. So other than that, the people who were not involved in those kind of organizations, they might not have, for them, these things don't matter. So I think that's what I can contribute by talking about those things. But I think generally is that as many people, everybody has a different story to tell, and we need to get them.
So, going back a bit, did you ever feel that you never had the same opportunities as someone that was quote-unquote white had in Canada? Or did you feel that never really mattered? Okay, 1 second, let me just ask that question again.
Well, how are we doing time-wise?
It was at 30 minutes, so check the time. It's 1:40. So I just have like 2 more questions.
Okay, that's
Did you ever feel that you never had the same opportunities as just normal, not normal, but just like Canadians, like white Canadians?
I honestly, I never thought like that. I think, like, if I had come as a kid, I had like my early education here, that would have been a different experience. But when I came, so I did not feel honestly, so personally, that I was not getting same opportunities. But if I start analyzing, I might say that it was because I spent from 75 to 85, 10 years working. In 1985, I started going to school on a regular basis. So those 10 years, if I was a white Canadian kid, then I might not have wasted those 10 years. I might have gone to school earlier and do things. But I think the way my life kind of unfolded, and I worked on my pace to get education, and I was able to get it. So I never feel that I didn't have those opportunities.
And if you could go back in time and change anything, would you go and change it? Something?
Actually, no. I'm really I'm happy the way things were, because I like one thing. What, like, at first my father was coming. He got a visa to come to Canada in 1960s. At that time, I was very young age, and then he decided not to come. He delayed it till 1970s. So that kind of in one way, if I had come during that time, I would come as a kid and I would gone to this school system and here, and that I could say that it would have been better. But when I look at differently, I think that that gave me time to grow up in India. So I was in connection with my culture, my history, everything. I was 18 when I came, so I was well grounded. So if I had come earlier, I might not have that kind of connection to my language, my culture, my history, all those things. So that's the only one thing I sometimes I think about it, but I still think that what happened right. So it was fine.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I think that's enough.
Okay. Just 1 second. There's one more thing I have to do.
Okay.